Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We had already taken the roll call in the closed session, so we don't need to take it. Matt Jacobs is absent. Anybody from the public wishes to comment? Hi. If you could please state your name. Sure.
Hi, I'm Kim McCullough. Everyone probably knows me by now, but I just wanted to give a quick update to the board. I've talked to Dr. Friedman about some of the recent, occurrings. We had a parent meeting for the Power Center that would be for Deaf and Hard of Hearing program and the transition program with Terry Nielsen Bugella and Sarah Carey, the principal and assistant principal. We had a lot of questions for them, and everything was answered with, I don't know. We tried to go to Val Donnan, superintendent, and we were told to address all questions to Terry. And from a parent's perspective, it was rather concerning that there are a lot of unknowns for next year, and everything was addressed with, I don't know. Another thing I talked to Dr. Friedman about, and I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware as well, since if anyone has any meetings, I know, Abe, sometimes you meet with Val, on everyone's IEPs, it's now has to be listed as a harmful effect for the Powers placement, that the program could move at any time. And the parents were all informed that this would be for all CEDAL students, and we found out that this is not the case for Laremont. So again, from a parent perspective, we're told one thing and that's not happening, and then that's a little concerning for us that it kind of seems like Deaf and Hard of Hearing program is being picked out a lot in comparison to some of the other programs. The other concern is there is an open principal position listed for Power Center, and it's minimal qualifications, and it's also only listed for a year. So given the fact that you're only hiring, it appears that the principal is only being hired for 1 year, and then the fact that there's now this harmful effect on everyone's IEPs just makes me worried that there might not be long-term consideration for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing program to stay at Powers. I know that I've spoken to everybody about it. I know you guys are on it, but I just wanted to come and give another update and make sure that that's kind of top of mind. There's a governing board meeting Wednesday night. I don't know if Matt will be in attendance or not.
I'll be there. Matt's going to be out of town. So.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Thank you, Robin, for representing.
No problem.
So I just wanted to mention that to the board. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Kim, we are watching everything related to that, as you and I have talked many times. And even though things may carry through past my term here, Abe and Pete will be very well aware of the needs. And CEDAL is very well aware not to steamroller us. So things aren't going to happen. And Renee knows exactly how I feel about it.
Good. Excellent. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wishes to comment? Okay. The next is recognitions. We don't have any. Presentations by Mr. Brager for middle school dual language program.
Gentlemen, you can come up.
And Mr. Collins and Mr. Natal too.
Yes. We have
Three buttoned up guys.
Wow, look at these three.
Yes. Give me a moment. There we go. There we go. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Does the audience hear me? Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Artur Brego, and I serve as the director of the bilingual program, and I also serve as the director of the ELL program. Tonight, I'm joined with Mr. Nattel, who serves as the principal of Middle School South, and Mr. Collins, who serves as the principal of Middle School North. And we are here to talk to you about the Middle School Dual Language Program. We want to be able to give you a short and brief history of the dual language program in Hawthorne 73. We specifically want to talk about staffing and the staffing allocation plan for the middle school dual language program. And we want to talk a little bit about the logistics that have occurred this past year and last year as we got to this point and as we move forward. This is a representative timeline, and we've marked off some certain mileposts and things that have occurred. I'll read them off because they're really difficult to see. The program began in 2001 with grade level strands at 2 of our schools, Elementary South and Elementary North. After a few years, in 2005, these strands were brought together under one school at Town Line. And then a few years later, in 2008, the School of Dual Language was developed. And, oh, excuse me. And then, I'm having a hard time here with my pen. Excuse me. There we go. In 2008, the School of Dual Language was developed, and a new course in the middle school was also developed called Advanced Spanish. In 2011, according to the records that I reviewed, there was an initial discussion regarding a concept of a middle school dual language program presented to the Board of Education. No action was taken at that time. In 2014, my first year here, the superintendent charged the administrative team to come up with a new vision for a middle school dual language program. And as our team sat down to develop this conceptual idea, we stopped for a moment and decided to take a step back before launching a new vision for the program. We wanted to take a look at what was occurring at the School of Dual Language. And so we contracted with the Center for Applied Linguistics to do a program audit of the school to determine how we could enhance the current instructional strategies that were occurring within the building, how we could evaluate the language allocation plan that was in that building, and to determine how we could use the latest research in order to address the needs of our students. And throughout the last few years, we've been working with that school, with Dr. Tomei and his staff, and with other consultants to implement those recommendations and to provide a stream of professional development for that school. In 2017, we gave 2 presentations to the Board of Education regarding the middle school dual language program. The first presentation was surrounding and centered on the concept of middle school dual language program and what that would consist of, the specific courses, the locations, the type of certifications and endorsements that the teachers would require, and the number of staff that we would need for that particular program. The board asked us to return in March to give a projected cost analysis for this particular program, and we did that. We outlined designated program costs for professional development, the purchasing of core curricular materials, the purchasing of additional supplemental materials, and the cost of staffing this particular program. We also talked about how we could utilize existing resources, either in personnel or title grants, to help support the launching of this particular program. As you recall, on that night, the conceptual idea for the dual language middle school program consisted of 3 courses: a Spanish literacy course, a social studies course, and a science course. We indicated to the board that we would use our current staff, the advanced Spanish teachers, to address our Spanish literacy course, but we needed to identify and hire additional staff in the areas of social studies and science. On that night, we outlined that we would need 4 additional staff members in order to actualize the vision for this program. We projected that cost to be $240,000, a $240,000 increase to the budget. We also indicated that after 2 years of programming, that we would come back to the Board of Education to determine if we needed any additional staffing for this program. And then we also promised that on an ongoing basis that we would consistently review the certification endorsements of our current staff to see if any of those individuals could help us support the actualization of this program. On that same night, after extensive discussions and dialogue amongst yourselves and asking me questions, the Board of Education approved the expansion of the dual language program to the middle school level, beginning with 6th grade and then rolling up a grade level each year thereafter, beginning in 2018 and 19. And we were very thankful that night, but we also recognized that we had a lot of work to do. I believe that someone asked if we could start the following September. We said, no, we wanted to take a year to be able to plan this. So in that year, 2017 and 18, we focused a lot on professional development with our existing staff. We also provided professional development to our administrative staff at the middle school. We created parent informational packets, and we focused on student recruitment. We also were very cognizant of the middle school schedule. We wanted our students to have a middle school experience while expanding the dual language program. We also created budgets and allocated resources for the upcoming 2018-19 school year. But the majority of our focus was on staffing and staffing allocation. In District 73, the staffing allocation is a collaborative, data-driven process. It's a complex and dynamic process. It is a process in which there is constant pressure from outside issues that you always need to attend to. For us, in this particular endeavor, was to identify the right professionals for this program. We wanted highly qualified, and we wanted really good people. So that was one of our goals to be able to do. The second thing was to determine if they had the appropriate certifications and endorsements to be able to teach within this program. Another factor that was always at the forefront were projected enrollments, not only for this particular program, who was going to attend this program, but overall in the entire district, and the kind of pressure that puts on a system. And we were facing budget issues that were causing some strain to our system. And so we took all of those into account as we were sitting down to create the staffing allocation plan. We understood that we needed to be really strategic in our response. As we planned for the 2018-19 school year, there were 3 major issues that were at the forefront. These are very strategic issues and very interconnected. They centered on identifying the appropriate staff, the projected pupil enrollment, not only for this particular program, but across the district, because enrollment impacts everything, not only general education classrooms, but programs. And we needed to address the budget issues. They were becoming more and more transparent as the months went by. In the area of certified staff, we were very, very vigilant in trying to identify the appropriate staff to hire. Throughout the months, it came to us that we could not identify and locate a certified bilingual teacher to teach our science course. So we decided that we would focus all of our endeavors into the area of social studies to be able to identify those individuals. We wanted to be able to, although the program would be a little bit different from our vision, we wanted to continue with the program, so we focused on trying to hire a social studies teacher. At that same time, we were looking at patterns of enrollment, not only across the district, but in regards to ELL and bilingual students. Specifically at one of our centers, we had seen a pattern of decrease over the last few years, and that pattern continued as we were analyzing staffing allocation. We decided that we could decrease 2 sections in one of our schools for bilingual programming and combine 2 grade levels into 1 class to create a multi-level class. Thus, we had some ability to reallocate and redeploy staff. The impact on budgeting was apparent, and for us as an administrative staff, we were determined to use our current resources as much as possible. So our goal was to be able to actualize this program in a cost-neutral way. So what we did was that we reallocated the deployment of those 2 staff members that we decreased the sections in, and we had additional staff that were that were leaving our school district, so we had an opportunity to hire strategically. So we were able to hire an individual who had a middle school endorsement, bilingual endorsement, and we were able to hire that individual for our program, and then we redeployed a current staff member to the 6th grade level. We did all of this at a cost neutral way. We didn't increase the total number of FTEs in this particular program. And the end result was not only to be able to address the issues of social studies at the middle school level, but we were also able to provide additional ELL support because the individuals that we placed at the middle school level also had ELL certification and bilingual certification, which helped us be able to address the needs of students. This year, as we plan for the following year, the major issues again is budget. Budget is driving everything that we're doing right now. And we want to be able to utilize and be as responsible as we can and utilize our staff as much as we can. So we understand that budget is impacting staffing, so the conclusion is that we need to use our current resources. We have teachers in our social studies course right now. How do we deploy them to be able to address not only the 6th grade, but 7th grade? And how do we utilize the schedule and review the schedule to be able to utilize our Spanish teachers to support us in Spanish literacy? So we all sat down as a collaborative team and we looked at schedules and we looked at class levels and we looked at class numbers and we came up with a plan to be able to do that. We will be able to provide a middle school experience at 6th and 7th grade using our current staffing allocation. So this is what it looks like at Middle School North. I've put in the projected numbers for 6th grade for next year, which is our current 5th graders. This also includes students who are attending Elementary North in the bilingual program. We will have 2 sections of Spanish literacy and we will have 2 sections of social studies in 6th grade. The 7th grade projected numbers are there. These are the current 6th grade students. And you see the projected numbers there and the projected sections. We will utilize our current staff to be able to meet these needs. Our current Spanish literacy teacher will teach 4 sections, 2 at the 6th grade level and 2 at the 7th grade level. Our current dual language social studies teacher will teach all 4 sections, 2 at the 6th grade level and 2 at the 7th grade level. We were able to accomplish the same thing at Middle School South, a little different variation. The student number, the enrollment numbers are there for you to see. The sections are outlined there too. Again, we will utilize our staff to be able to address the issues of Spanish literacy and social studies with the current staff that we have within the school. I'll stop right there if there's any questions regarding that.
I have a question.
Yes.
So what percentage of the students' day will be in Spanish?
Our initial goal was to, I believe, have 140 minutes of language instruction, but I think that we were able to accomplish 90 minutes. So right now, we have a 50-minute social studies course, plus a 40-minute Spanish literacy course. As far as the percentage of the day, I'm so sorry, I'm terrible at math. I'll figure it out and I'll send it to you. Yeah,
Okay,
it is much more
so-
than 12%. It's about 24%, 25%.
Okay, but to be a true dual language program, it has to be 50%, right?
Yes, that's what our vision was, to be able to do that, yes.
Okay. So, is that the eventual goal, or are we gonna?
I think that one of the, I'll go back to that timeline, and if you can remember it in your mind, there are certain gaps in there. And I think what occurs during those gaps is where the story actually happens, where there is continued support from the parent community, a continued wanting and needing from the Board of Education to actualize and visualize the program that we wanted. So as we go forward, I think that our goal is always to continue to try to see if we can increase that, but we need to do that in a fiscally responsible way and to do that together as an administrative staff. I think that at the forefront is the budget issues that are confronting us right now. But I think one of the things that we'll talk about as we move forward is when we plan for the 2021 year, when we go up 6th through 8th grade, we'll go through this process again. And the question would be, do we see an opportunity to redeploy staff if we see a decrease in services in one particular building? I am a strong believer in the dual language program. And since the moment that I arrived here, one of the goals that I had was to be able to actualize this program and to work together with the community to be able to do this. So I would say that to you that our journey is not ended. We are just moving cautiously at this point. And we will work together with the Board of Education, our parent community, to do what we feel is right academically, socially, emotionally, but also it's right as far as the resources that we have at hand at this point.
And my next question, since this is the first year
Mhm.
that we've launched the program, have the parents, have we reached out to the parents for feedback to see how they feel?
So this is the first year of implementation, and you're right. We're not actually done with the first year. We're sort of going into, I think, the third trimester. Yes. And so, yes, we have some ideas to be able to actually reach out to our parent community to talk about questionnaires about their experience. And we want to talk to the kids, too. And we want to be able to speak to the teachers regarding that, the particular experience. We do have some plans for summer planning, once again, and we did that all of last year also, to move forward. I think, and I'll let the principal speak as far as their interactions with the parents. My interactions have been quite positive with our parent community. There is a request and wanting to expand the program to include not only the social studies, but the science portion of it all. It is something that is at the forefront of my mind, but we need to be able to look at that really strategically as we move forward. I don't know, gentlemen, if you want to.
Can I ask a question piggybacking off of Wes here? So if the goal was to be 50%, 50% of the day spent in Spanish, are we meeting the goals of the program as far as student performance and achievement? If we're not truly doing this with integrity to the dual language model, is it too soon to tell? And my question is, if it's not too soon to tell, do we know if we've made any headway we have an achievement gap in this population, not specifically to the Spanish-speaking kids, but we have an achievement gap with our ELL students. So I want to make sure that if we're putting resources towards this, that it's going to help that situation,
Right.
rather than putting resources towards something that's only kind of being done with intent, with not intent, of course the intention's all there, but only being done with kind of meeting half of the design in mind.
Right. I would say to you that I believe as far as trying to measure the impact of the additional course at this moment, I think we're a little early in the time to be able to do that.
Okay.
It is our intention to be able to see that. I think in the end, when we see students matriculate up into the high school, we'll be able to measure some of those things. I would also indicate to you that myself as a former ELL student and students who are acquiring English as their second language, their performance on those standardized assessments are going to be not at the same level as English dominant students. One of the things that the state has done is a requirement now to be able to monitor students who are former ELLs, and I think that's where we need to shift our focus. To identify those students who have made and have acquired the exit criteria according to the state, and then start measuring their growth from that point on, and just taking a look at that, because I think it's essential. Because for us, one of the things that we've instituted in our district right now is a monitoring process to monitor our students who have exited the program for 4 years. That falls in line with the state, and I'm using a current database that gathers all their data information into one place to be able to do that. That's a really long answer to your question.
It's okay, it's a long question.
Yeah, but I would say to you, we are adamant and determined to work together with our teaching staff, our parent community, our administrative staff, and our Board of Education to do everything we can to close the achievement gap, especially for those students who I think are where the real issue lies where it's impacted by poverty. And that's the way I believe our focus needs to be.
Okay. One other question. Towards the beginning of your presentation, you referred to one of the centers combining the ELL classrooms, and you said multi-level. Are you referring to that combined 6th, 7th? I didn't know exactly which building you were referring to and which grade levels are being combined, or did you mean multi-level as far as ability?
No, grade level.
Grade level.
Grade level. And what we had seen in a particular building, this was Elementary North,
Okay.
a pattern over the last 3 years of a decreased number of students whose heritage language was Spanish
Okay.
coming into that program. And so we had seen it for 1 year, and we said, okay, maybe it's a blip. And then we saw it again in the second year at the kindergarten level, the entrance level. And then we saw it again in the third year. We saw at one point through the kindergarten registration, I believe 14 students who were going to enroll or whose home address corresponded to Elementary North,
Sure.
but 12 of those students had already signed up for the dual language program.
Okay.
And so what we did was to take these two classes, which were small in number, and then combine them. So it's a grade 1-2 split right now that we have at Elementary North that's being supported by one of our bilingual teachers. And so all of those factors sort of allowed us to take a look at staffing very strategically. We were able to deploy some staff members. And in the end, to actualize this program right now, although not the vision that we initially had, but a beginning step. And as I said again, if you look at that timeline, if you look at the gaps in between, there are pressures and momentum and catalysts that occur between that. I have no doubt that when we come back again to talk about this in a few years, we'll be talking about an expanded program. That's our goal.
So is that reduction in ELL across the board in other schools as well, or is there a shifting?
No.
So-
No, I can talk to Dr. Martin, and she would tell you no. No, but we've
so it's
seen
shifting
some. Yeah,
from one
we've seen
school to
some
another.
shifting. We've
Okay.
seen some buildings a little bit. But as we sit down to do our staffing every year, we take a lot of data into account, and one of the data points is who are our students. Although we don't get test results for access, but we can make some predictive, some predictions on things. Kindergarten is a really good indicator for us. The number of students who come in with another language other than English, and that's where we see our patterns, and that's where we catch those things.
So tonight is about middle school, and I want to stay on that, but for the future, I would be curious to hear more about that multi-grade level classroom
Okay.
setup.
All right, absolutely. I just wanted to say thank you again and to recognize all the bilingual learners, those that are in our school district as far as students and those here. It is a superpower. Yes, we have one more
I have
question.
one more question. Have there been any students that participated in the dual middle school program this year, but they're going to opt out for next year?
Not that I'm aware of. We did have one student that, based on a joint parent-school discussion, based on his needs, not participate in the program anymore. And it was a mutual decision. It was a good decision for the student, but not that I'm aware of. In fact, we're planning on everyone going forward. And in fact, our recruitment for 5th to 6th grade, over 98% of the students.
Okay, so that's higher than last year.
Yeah.
Because I know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we had a couple that did not want to participate.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, I had
Yes.
one. We have our fifth from School of Dual Language into middle school. We have our participation, our acceptance rate is very high. For the Elementary North, which is the 5th grade bilingual, is that all of them, or is that also the letters went out in November for them, and what is their participation
I'm going to be
rate?
sending the letters out after this meeting today.
Okay.
And
Okay.
last year, I would say that we had about a 98%, 95 to 98%.
So even there, it's pretty high, the
Yes.
acceptance rate for
Yeah,
students.
this is their school. They're going to be going to that school. Most of the students at Elementary North, I think with the exception of one, are going to Middle School North.
Yeah.
So.
So this is a question for the two of you, Mr. Natal and Mr. Collins. We have the space crunch. our enrollments are high, you're not going to see the dip. You still are in that 6th, 7th, 8th bubble classrooms where it's extremely high enrollment for all those grades right now. So how has it been as far as enrollment or, scheduling to get these classes, and how do you anticipate that now you would have 3 more sections per, per grade to pull out for 7th grade? So
Good question, Ms. Patel.
Wow.
Actually,
I get a start.
it just depends. I mean, and Robert can chime in too. Our needs are very different between both our buildings. So at Hawthorne Middle School North and at Hawthorne South, schedule align perfectly. So we put that social studies experience the same time as the other grade level social studies experience. So if anything, it will diminish the numbers in the other sections of social studies. So their numbers are pretty well below, I would say, the norm between both our buildings. The same as when we place children into the Spanish literacy program, it diminishes those numbers in the language arts classes. But it's the same at middle school south. Am I missing anything, right?
Yeah, no, we have a classroom and we'll be prepared to schedule students into the courses.
Okay. So I know this ends our presentation, and we probably don't need a whole presentation again, but like you said, we are just going into the 3rd trimester, and I think as a board, we would like to see the effectiveness of this program. And so when you do your assessment and, surveys and back, we would at least like to get a memo
Absolutely.
regarding that, just to see, how is it and how effective it has been, because, just rolling it out doesn't make sense if it's not effective.
Absolutely. Thank you.
But thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you very
job,
much.
guys.
Anybody else? No. Thank you. The next order of business is HEA donation. Mr. Langdon?
Good evening. I'd like to start by saying thank you very much for giving us a few minutes here for this presentation. My name is John Langland, and I'm the president of the Hawthorne Education Association, representing the teachers and support staff of our district. Over the course of a school year, we do a few fundraisers amongst the staff and trying to give back to the students and the community. And again, we do a number of those throughout the year. And one of the organizations that we selected to donate to this year is Prime PE, headed by Matt Polnow here. And their mission, part of what they're doing at this time, is purchasing gym bags with personal hygiene and personal fitness equipment that they will be giving out to students in need. So with that, we would like to present Matt and his organization with this check.
Thank you very much, John. So I'm Matt Paul now. I'm a PE teacher at Elementary North. Have a passion for obviously kids living healthier lives. So this check will go towards few gym bags that we can provide to Hawthorne students. And in the future, we would like to reach more communities. And we partner schools with sponsoring groups, whether it's businesses or other organizations, and hope to get as many kids that we can resources to live a healthier life. Thank you, guys.
so much.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks, good job.
Do I have a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole?
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Vicky, seconded by Wes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays. Call to order the business meeting. Could I have a roll call, please?
Jason Tron?
Here.
George Evett?
Here.
Victoria Helander Heiser?
Here.
Robin Cleek?
Here.
Wes Pullen here. Sonali Patel.
Here. 6 present, Matt absent. Anybody from the public wishes to comment? Going once, twice, gone. The first consent agenda is board meeting minutes from, I guess, sorry, I can't remember. Yeah, I just wanted to say, these are approval of board meeting minutes from February 25th, and we have the personnel report. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion by Robbins, seconded by West. Could I have a roll call, please?
Jason Tron.
Aye.
George Vivet.
Aye.
Victoria Helander Heiser.
Aye.
Robin Cleek.
Aye.
West Pole and I. Sonali Patel.
Aye. Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays. The next action item is the cost reduction recommendation. Do I have a motion?
Sonali, before you do a motion, just a request. In the past, there have been other cost savings actions performed by the district. Wondering if it would be possible to collect those along with whatever we do here and publicize that so everyone knows what we've done over the past so that it's visible and available to the community.
We can post that. We can put it on our website, I guess.
Okay.
Some running tally of all the different savings that we got. I know Abe, you and Mike have presented a bunch of stuff before.
For the summer
We're
projects. and
we're
stuff.
presenting yet another set of savings, and I'm sure we're going to have more. So I think that's a great idea.
Tab of all the savings. So do I have a motion?
I move that the school board approve the 2019-2020 budget reduction recommendations as presented on the chart entitled Cost Reduction Recommendations, which includes a total budget reduction of $1,072,321.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Yeah, motion by George, seconded by Vicky. Any discussion?
I don't want people to think we didn't ask any questions before we went and reduced. So just to clear that up, I believe we've had all of our questions answered in closed session.
Yes.
So I don't think people are going to hear a discussion here tonight.
Yes. And all these tabs will be open tomorrow to view. So, could I have a roll call, please?
Jason Tron.
Aye.
George Vivet.
Aye.
Victoria Helander Heiser.
Aye.
Robin Cleek.
Nay.
Sonali Patel.
Aye.
West Poland. Aye.
Motion passes 5 ayes, 1 nay. The next action item is resolution for reduction in force. Do I have a motion? I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing honorable dismissal of full-time educational support personnel as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Sonali, seconded by Jason. Anybody have any discussion?
Oh, same comment as last time.
I want to make a comment. This is one of the hardest things as a board we've done as a team of 7. Matt, even though not here, I'm sure feels it as I can speak on his behalf too. This has been hard, but this is something we have to do. We have a deficit in our budget, and we have to come to balance our books. We have our increased enrollment has also caused us to, we were able to pass one referendum to build buildings, but with the deficit and the building of buildings or operation of the buildings, we won't be, it's not a sustainable move. This is we've all thought of it very hard. It's taken us time. It's not something that we just came up with or came about with. This has been under the direction of the board, but with all the administrative team in charge too, and it is a tough decision for them too. So we are all in it, and we are really sorry to having to do this, but it is something that has to be done for the district. is the right thing to do. Can I have a roll call, please?
Sonali Patel,
Aye.
George Vivet,
Aye.
Jason Tron,
Aye.
Robin Cleek,
Nay.
Victoria Helander Heiser,
Aye.
Wes Poland. Aye.
Motion passes 5 ayes, 1 nay.
Can I explain my nay for 1 second?
Sure.
It's not that I want to make my fellow board members look like I am in disagreement with them. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. This was simply a matter of not being able to take this package as anything other than all or nothing. So that was my reason to vote nay. It's not that I disagree that cost reductions need to happen. So that's my qualifying statement.
The next action item is resolution authorizing emergency bill payment. Abe, you want to explain what this is just for a second?
Sure. This is what we did last year in March, but it's a resolution if we do once, we won't have to do over again in the future. It allows us to pay bills. We would hold them. You know, if any bills were of question to the board members, we'd hold them until the subsequent board meeting. Otherwise, this resolution would allow us to pay our bills in a timely manner.
So this is in case if we have to cancel a board meeting, the second board meeting, which is in the month when we usually pay our bills, or if we have inclement weather or emergency happens and we can't. So we will get the report or the memo from our finance department. We will look through it as we do in a normal circumstances. If there's something that flags us or we have a question or a concern, we normally anyway ask Abe, Mr. Abe Singh, and we would do that. That bill would be withheld. The rest of the bills would be paid. We would go through the motion for at the next meeting, we will do the approval as an action item and the agenda as we do normally. This is just a resolution to authorize for the payment. We are doing it for the rest of the year so that we don't have to do it for every meeting, just in case if we do get canceled for another snow day. And I know everybody's going to hate me for saying that, but just in case if something happens, so that we don't have to keep approving it every time. And so that's the resolution.
Don't forget the meeting we held with no power, no heat, and no light.
Yes.
We could have
Never
canceled
forgot.
it.
That was a cold
Kim
one.
was
But
there
we
too.
had bills to pay.
See, we had one
bills to
other
pay.
crazy
Had to
person
do
with
it.
us there. Do I have a motion for this resolution?
I move that the Board of Education adopt the resolution authorizing emergency bill payment.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Wes, seconded by George. Any discussion? Could I have a roll call, please?
Sonali Patel,
Aye.
Wes Poland, aye. Robin Cleek,
Aye.
Victoria Helander Heiser,
Aye.
George Vivet,
Aye.
Jason Tron.
Aye.
Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays. The next is the kindergarten building bid approvals. You want to take a couple more seconds?
Sure. At the last meeting, we went over the bid results in detail. Tonight, we're going to request that you approve the contracts. There are 23 contracts totaling $11,222,953. The necessary information you would need is in your board packet and exactly as it was presented at the last board meeting.
And okay. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the contracts for the bidders and their proposed contract amounts as listed in the attached letter of bid compliance dated March 11th, 2019, and authorize the Vernon Hills Park District to execute such contract.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion by Bess, seconded by Robin. Any discussion?
We came under budget, right?
Yeah.
It
Yes.
did,
What?
under budget.
221,000?
Correct.
Okay.
And the Park District will vote on this on March 28th,
Okay.
just so you're aware.
So what is the next step after this? So I gave Tom, after they approve, what is the next step?
So, we have Tom McGrath here if you have any detailed questions, but essentially after the Park District approves at their board meeting these contracts, we would be able to execute the contracts, put together a master schedule, critical path for the project, Typically, the construction trailer and the fencing come first. And as soon as the ground thaws, mid-April, May, as soon as the ground thaws, we'll
June,
begin.
July.
It's a moving.
June.
Great.
Yeah. As soon as the ground thaws, we will begin, we'll break ground and begin site work.
Okay. We can talk about this later, but eventually, once we start with this procedures or the process, is there going to be a tab on our website or somewhere where we can start, where even the community can see what the timelines are and the tabs are?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
We'll get a webcam.
It's a great idea.
Yep.
Mhm.
Can I have a roll call on this, please?
Jason Tron,
Aye.
George Thievit,
Aye.
Victoria Helander Heiser,
Aye.
Robin Cleek,
Aye.
West Pole and I, Sonali Patel.
Aye. Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays. Tom, you're good to go.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let's get this thing going.
Yeah, let's get it. Now only we can get the
Weather.
weather to
Get a
cooperate.
picture of all of us with a shovel.
Snow shovel?
Oh.
I can't even install yours.
Yeah, we're having trouble with that. Next is custodian subcontractor bids. Abe.
Thank you. We bid out the existing custodial contract. It was posted January 31st. Bids were received March 5th. That would be last Tuesday. We had 12 contractors that picked up bid packets, 3 submissions. They were GSF, RNA, and ABM. And the lowest responsive bidder is GSF at $748,324. It is not an action item for tonight, just preliminary information for you to review. It would be an action item at the next board meeting in March. Relative to our existing contract, the lowest bidder would keep us below our current costs by approximately $60,000 a year.
And our current contractor is ABM, right?
That is correct.
And this is for the current contracts that we already have ongoing,
Correct. This is for existing custodial services.
services that we outsource. Okay. If anybody has any questions from this memo, if you could please reach out to Abe and Mike. So that may be good. Have all the information. I'm sorry, I shut myself out of something. Give me 1 second. The next is the precedence report. So the report I have is, I actually want to congratulate our students. We had a really, right now is the time for conference championships, sectional stage. So I want to congratulate the girls 6th and 7th grade volleyball team for being the state champions.
Ooh.
I want to congratulate, we want to congratulate Jack McGowan, I'm sorry if I missed, for being the ISAU wrestling champ. He's the state champ for wrestling in his weight category, and I don't want to give his weight category out because I don't remember it on top of my head, but congratulations, he's an Illinois student. I have the boys 6th and 7th volleyball, they actually won their conference, and they wanted me to tell you guys that they don't get to go to state, so that was where their trophy stopped, but they could have also gone to state. So they wanted me to let you know that, so I just wanted to share that since conference is as far as the boys can go, they won the championship, so that's it. Anybody else want to add anything else?
Mr. Collins, what did Lexi Schulman just win this weekend?
Oh,
She won something.
yeah, she won.
Oh, that was private. Okay.
It wasn't through school. But
Okay,
she did win a
gotcha.
huge tournament on the other side of the
One of our 8th graders.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
But it wasn't. She won a Tar Heel golf championship in golf. It was down in North Carolina, but it wasn't through school, so.
Gotcha.
Still very impressive.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Anything else? No. Superintendent's report.
I just had 1 or 2 quick little things. I don't know if
Oh,
there was any-
just a second before. We also, since we didn't have the time, we had Vicky represent us at the
Ed
readings. So, there's something you would like to say?
I'll just indicate that this was the first Ed Red meeting that I have attended, and I'll be attending them monthly from here on in. And now that I've kind of gotten back in the swing of Ed Red again, after each session, I will send out a summary of what was covered at the meeting. So if in fact you have any questions, issues that you'd like to raise, I can hopefully get answers for you prior to the next meeting. The first meeting, it didn't work that way, but from here on in, we definitely will do that. Probably the biggest, the turnout at this meeting was enormous, and there were a tremendous number of other Lake County districts attending, which I think is really an important thing to note. I think for a lot of the folks there is this sense of waiting for the folks in Springfield to make some decisions on issues that have been sitting on their plates for quite some time. The discussion at the most recent Ed Red meeting centered on the state funding for teacher pensions. A number of scenarios were provided that the membership responded to. The Ed Red people are going to take those back and sort of formulate yet again another set of recommendations that they're going to bring forward. But I have a feeling that this is still quite a bit in the offing. There's still a lot of negotiating that's going to be going on. Other things that are waiting for answers are issues surrounding property taxes, debt extension, adequacy, or district adequacy targets. Those are all things that have been on the plate for quite some time, and there hasn't really been a lot of action on them. The physical education bill, the 150 minutes, with some variance for elementary students, is still under discussion. That's still being looked at, as is the Performance Evaluation Reform Act. The state is very strongly in favor of having a teacher assessment based on a effective and ineffective rating. Districts can have more ratings, but the state only wants that reported to them. So you can see there's a lot of discussion about when do remediation plans check or connect and that sort of thing. So needless to say, there's a lot of balls in the air, and hopefully things will come to resolution soon. But at least from this point on, I'll make sure that you have a summary of those meetings so you can ask questions.
Thank you so much for attending on our behalf.
Yeah, thank you.
And keeping us updated.
Real quick, and I don't know if Joe has anything to add, but our online registration has really done what we expected, and people are using it. The latest numbers that Lynn provided us were we have 260 kindergarten students enrolled online. So people are getting used to it. We're working through a few of the little bitty issues, but in the end, everyone will look back on this as a milestone for District 73 moving forward. And the other thing that jointly we both got caught off guard is our SRO came in and said to Joe, I'm retiring in a week, and kind of surprised us. We've gotten to know him pretty well. He has done a great job in some very sticky situations this past year. And unfortunately, it seems to have been the day that I've been on duty where some of these have happened. But as Jennifer knows, we've needed Officer Parrott many times. And we're really sorry. Friday's his last day. And he's retiring and then taking a job with another police department. And so we'll miss him.
The boys will miss him too. I think the B-Dubs will miss him too, because he used to be there keeping control of all our early release days, and the Starbucks will miss him. So I think he'll be
We didn't know we hung out at Starbucks.
No, he makes sure the kids are behaving when they are there.
Okay.
So he doesn't hang out there. He's keeping control of those kids who are there.
Kidding, just joking.
But he will be missed. Thank you so much for your service, Officer Parrott, and we look forward to, I can't remember his name.
John.
John. That's easy. So we'll see Officer John around. So Thank you so much.
He's going to be replaced by 2 temporary people, Officer Foy and then Officer Lonergan, who worked at Vernon Hills High School for a stretch, is going to finish out the year with us. So we're going to kind of craft something together, and then I don't know what the police department's going to do in the long term.
They said they would have a permanent replacement
Yeah.
for us to begin the new school year.
Do we need them during summer school? Usually?
I don't think they work in the summer school
Yes.
program.
No.
No,
Like even when we have camps and stuff, we don't.
no.
They don't. Huh? We use the police department, so we have the full force, not
Yeah.
not just Officer Barrett. Okay. Any topics for future meetings?
Just a quick question. Last meeting, you said something about naming the kindergarten building. What's going on with
We're
that?
working with the administrative team on a plan. We'll come back to you.
Sonali, did we decide if we're having the meeting March 21st or not? I think you had mentioned maybe,
No
maybe
meeting?
not.
No meeting.
No meeting March 21st.
No meeting March 21st. So
We
See
can
you
pay
in
the bills
April.
now.
See you on April.
the next meeting is April 8th.
Go out and vote
Don't
on
forget
April
to vote.
2nd
Yes,
or earlier.
or earlier, which starts on the 18th next.
Yes. It already started if you want to drive up to Waukegan, but if you want to go to the regular early voting sites, it starts March 18th.
Yes. So please
Yeah,
vote.
that's right.
We have a lot of local elections. We have District
I think it's the
128,
Vernon Township
library,
Center.
mayor,
Not mayor.
village trustees,
Yeah.
not mayor, but village trustees and our board here itself. So please go out and vote. Be responsible, and we'll see you back on April 8th. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion by Robin, seconded by Wes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays. Thank you.